Hi, Brian Katzung here, and in this video I'm going to show how you can force Kartra mockups to display your original file instead of a compressed version that it generates on the fly, and why you might want to do that. So here I have 3 mockups, and I've put a resolution chart in the first 2 of them. I've already added some custom styles that will demonstrate the effect. But just to look at the preview of this page, here is the mockup where I have forced it to show the original file, and here's the unprocessed version, letting Kartra create a compressed version of the file. I don't know if you can see the distortions here. I also have a screenshot that I've enlarged. It's all kind of blurry now because of the enlargement, but you can see how the original image is fairly uniform, and then in the compressed one that's generated by Kartra, especially along here, and this radial here, and this radial here, you can see that there are distortions that can cause your image to look blurry. It's probably less noticeable if you have a natural kind of image like a house or a person or something of that nature, but if you have anything that has a very clear, distinct lines in it, they tend to get distorted rather badly, so you might want to or might need to use this technique for those kinds of images. So again, I'm not sure how well you'll see it in the video, but there's fairly clear distortion of this original image along here and here and here. So how do we fix that? Well, and the reason that they look clear here is in the editor you are seeing your original file, whereas in the preview or the published version it's being replaced with a compressed file. So how do we eliminate the compressed file and view our original file? So to do that, come into the editor. Then you will right-click on your original image and then choose Inspect. I've already got the Inspect window open. So it's just moved the inspector window to the point in the HTML markup. So as you can see, when I do this and click Inspect, it's going to highlight the element that has the image in blue. So when I have my mouse over this element, you'll see this highlights in blue to match. If I move to other elements, those other elements will highlight. So this element contains, at this point right here, contains the background image that we're going to need to force the published page to display. Now this particular element, other than having this image URL in it, doesn't really have anything to easily identify it, because we need to be able to distinguish between the different images as we're replacing images. So typically these would be different images, and I have 3 mockups in a row here because it tends to accentuate the extent of the problem. But you could use it for any number of mockups you have. But the point is, you might have multiple images, and we have to replace each one with its corresponding original file. So we need to find a way to uniquely identify this image. Now this HTML element doesn't have a unique identifier, but this one does. If you see where it says ID and equals and a bunch of text, fortunately this element has a unique identifier in it, and we can identify this element based on this element's unique ID. All we have to do is say the element after this one that has something in particular about it, and we're going to use the fact that this element has a class called background item. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in CSS that says find the element with this ID followed by the element that's got a class of background item, and we're going to tell it what image to display instead of the one that's in the markup. So first of all, we need to go to this element, and as you can see in the blue highlight in the browser main window, this is the markup for the mockup itself, and this is the markup for the image within the mockup. So what I'm going to do is just going to double click between the double quotes. So it's ID equals double quotes and then the ID value in double quotes. So by double clicking between the quotes, I can highlight that text. I'm going to do Control C, which would be Command C on Mac, to copy that. I'm going to go to my Styles window and go to the Custom Styles tab. Now I've already done this once before, so I'll just replace this and start over. So to identify something by an ID, we need to put in # and the ID. So I'm putting in # and doing a Control V to paste. So that's going to identify this element. Now we need to identify this element by class. So I'm going to type a space and then a dot or a period, which says I want to identify something by class. And then I'm going to type in background dash item, which is this class over here. And then I need to say that I'm starting a rule, so I'm going to type open curly brace and another space. And then what I want to do is I want to display this original background image, not the compressed one that's going to get generated for preview and live. So I'm just going to double click where it starts to say background here, because I want to get inside this style equals double quote string. Now it's going to highlight the entire style, and I don't want that much, so I'm going to single click. I don't know if you can see it, but my cursor is blinking inside this string. So I'm going to go back and drag to select, starting with a B in background, and go through where it says background image URL and this URL, and I'm going to grab everything through the close parenthesis up to but not including the semicolon at the end. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to do a Control C to copy, and then I'm going to paste that into my style. Now normally the style that's in the markup has precedence over a style that's in a style sheet. So I have to add a space and say !important, and that's going to tell it that this style sheet setting is going to override the markup setting, and then a semicolon, and then a close brace. And that is the CSS to override and force it to use the original image. So if you do that for a bunch of images, you can just go down to the next line, put in your new # to identify the next ID, space dot background dash item space open brace, copy and paste the same way, space # important semicolon close brace. So just repeat that however many times you need to for the images that you have in there, and that's it. Hope that helps.